Today we dive into the story of a man whose life was a roller coaster of struggle, deceit, love, and redemption. His name is Jacob, and his story begins even before his birth, in the womb of his mother Rebecca. Jacob was the younger of twins, born with his hand grasping the heel of his older brother Esau. As if from the very first moment he was already trying to get ahead, that rivalry would define their entire lives. Esau grew up to be a rugged, hairy hunter, his father Isaac's favorite. Jacob, on the other hand, was a quiet, thoughtful boy who preferred to stay near the tents. He was his mother, Rebecca's favorite. This division within the family sowed the seeds for a great conflict. When their father Isaac had grown old and nearly blind, he wanted to pass on his birthright and blessing to Esau. This blessing was no small matter. It was a promise from God of prosperity and leadership. Rebecca overheard this and devised a plan. She wanted Jacob to receive the blessing at all costs. While Esau went out hunting to prepare a meal for his father, Jacob disguised himself. He put animal skins on his arms to appear as hairy as his brother. He brought the meal to his father, pretended to be Esau, and received the blessing that was meant for his brother. It was pure deception. When Esau came home and discovered what had happened, he was furious. His hatred was so great that he swore to kill Jacob. For Jacob, there was only one option left: to flee. His parents sent him hundreds of kilometers away to his uncle Laban in Haran to escape his brother's revenge. On the way, alone and uncertain about his future, Jacob stopped to spend the night in the wilderness. He laid his head on a stone and fell asleep. That night, he had a dream that changed everything. He saw a ladder reaching from earth up to heaven, with angels going up and down on it. At the top of the ladder stood God himself, who made him a promise. God promised Jacob to protect him, to give him many descendants, and to grant the land on which he lay to his family. When Jacob woke up, he was deeply moved. He realized that God was with him, even in his exile. He named the place Bethel, House of God, and swore to follow God. With renewed hope, Jacob arrived in Haran. At a well, he met the beautiful Rachel, the daughter of his uncle Laban. It was love at first sight. Jacob agreed to work for Laban for 7 years in exchange for Rachel's hand. Those 7 years felt to him like just a few days. Such was his love. But the deceiver was himself deceived. On the wedding night, under the cover of darkness, Laban did not give him Rachel, but her older, less beloved sister Leah. It was only the next morning that Jacob discovered the betrayal. He was furious, but Laban had a simple explanation. It was not customary to marry off the younger daughter before the older one. Jacob was allowed to marry Rachel after all, but he had to work another 7 years for Laban. Thus began his life with 2 women who were both sisters and rivals. It became a complex and often painful family situation. Leah bore one son after another, while Rachel, the woman Jacob truly loved, remained barren. The tensions ran high. Eventually, Jacob and his 2 wives, along with their 2 maidservants, had a total of 12 sons and 1 daughter. These 12 sons would later become the ancestors of the 12 tribes of Israel. During the 20 years that Jacob lived with Laban, he became a wealthy man. Through clever livestock breeding, he managed to greatly expand his herds. But his relationship with his father-in-law kept getting worse. Laban felt cheated, and the tension was palpable. Eventually, Jacob decided it was time to return to his homeland, Canaan. In secret, he gathered his family and all his possessions and left. Laban gave chase, but after a confrontation, they made peace. But the greatest challenge still awaited him, the confrontation with Esau. Jacob heard that his brother was coming to meet him with 400 men. Fear gripped his heart. Was Esau still out for revenge after all these years? Jacob prayed fervently to God for protection and sent lavish gifts ahead to win his brother's favor. The night before the meeting, after Jacob had already sent his family across the Jabbok River, he stayed behind alone. There, in the darkness, he was attacked by a mysterious man. Some say it was an angel, others say it was God himself. They wrestled all night long. Jacob, the deceiver and fugitive, refused to give up. Even when the man dislocated his hip and left him limping for the rest of his life, he held on tight. He gasped, "I will not let you go unless you bless me." And the man blessed him. He gave him a new name, Israel, which means he who struggles with God. Jacob, the heel grabber, had been transformed. He was no longer the man who ran away, but the man who fought for his blessing. Marked but strengthened, he went to meet his brother the next day. To his immense relief and amazement, Esau did not run toward him to fight, but to embrace him. The two brothers fell into each other's arms, weeping. The years-long feud was over. Reconciliation was a fact. Jacob settled in Canaan. But his life, full of drama, was not yet over. He loved Joseph the most, the first son of his beloved Rachel. He gave him a beautiful, multicolored coat, which made his other 10 sons furiously jealous. One day, they seized their chance. They sold Joseph as a slave to passing traders and told their father that he had been torn apart by a wild animal. Jacob was inconsolable. His heart was broken and he mourned his lost son for years. Years later, when a severe famine struck the land, Jacob sent his sons to Egypt to buy grain. There they stood unknowingly face to face with their brother Joseph. After many trials, he had risen to become the most powerful man in Egypt, second only to Pharaoh. Eventually, Joseph revealed his identity, forgave his brothers, and invited the entire family to come live in Egypt. The reunion between the elderly Jacob and his long-lost son Joseph is one of the most moving moments in the story. Jacob, now an old and weary man, spent his final years in peace in Egypt, surrounded by his children and grandchildren. Before his death, he blessed all his sons and gave them prophetic words for the future. He made them swear that after his death, they would bring his body back to Canaan, the land that God had promised to him and his descendants. Thus ended the life of Jacob, a man who began as a deceiver, struggling with his brother, his father-in-law, and even with God. A life full of mistakes, sorrow, and regret, but also filled with dreams, love, and miraculous reconciliation. He was transformed from Jacob the deceiver into Israel, the father of a nation. His story shows that a life full of struggles can still lead to an incredible legacy. Thank you for watching. If you found this story interesting, don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories like this. See you next time, and God's blessing.